What happens when a billionaire tech entrepreneur walks into her own mansion and discovers her housekeeper teaching her twin daughters something that changes everything? She thought she knew about safety, trust, and family. The conversation she overhears will challenge every assumption about the woman she hired to clean her house, and the secret this housekeeper carries will transform not just how she sees her employee, but how she sees herself as a mother. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Sophia Chen had built her empire on precision. Every algorithm she coded, every business decision she made, every meeting she attended operated on calculated efficiency. Her tech company, Nexus Innovations, had revolutionized cloud security for Fortune 500 companies, and her penthouse overlooking Seattle's skyline reflected that success in every gleaming surface and perfectly positioned piece of furniture. The 34-year-old entrepreneur lived her life in compartments, each one organized and optimized. There was work Sophia, who commanded boardrooms and delivered presentations that could shift stock prices. There was public Sophia, who graced magazine covers and spoke at conferences about breaking barriers in technology. And then there was Mother Sophia, a role she approached with the same systematic approach she used for everything else, though it remained the one area where her confidence sometimes wavered. Her twin daughters, Emma and Lily, were 7 years old and as different as two people sharing the same DNA could possibly be. Emma, the elder by 12 minutes, possessed an analytical mind that reminded Sophia of herself at that age, always asking questions that required thoughtful answers. Lily approached life with an artist's soul, finding beauty in mundane details and expressing herself through colors and movements that seemed to flow from some deep intuitive place. The girls lived in a world of privilege that Sophia had built for them, attending an elite private school in Bellevue, taking piano lessons with a renowned instructor, and spending their summers at carefully selected enrichment camps. Their lives were structured, safe, and purposeful, exactly as Sophia intended. Marcus Chen, their father, had been absent from their lives for 3 years now, ever since their divorce was finalized. He had chosen his law firm's partnership track over family time once too often, and Sophia had chosen independence over constant disappointment. The girls saw him every other weekend, visits that were scheduled, supervised, and diplomatically civil. Marcus provided financial support and awkward attempts at weekend entertainment, but he remained more of an obligation than a presence in their daily lives. This left Sophia, as the primary architect of her daughter's world, a responsibility she took seriously but one that required careful delegation. She couldn't be everywhere at once, despite her desire to maintain control over every aspect of their environment. That was where household staff became essential, particularly Rosa Martinez. Rosa had been cleaning the Chen household for 8 months, arriving every Tuesday and Friday at precisely 9 in the morning and departing by 4 in the afternoon. She was 42 years old, spoke with a gentle accent that hinted at origins south of the border, and possessed an almost supernatural ability to make the penthouse spotless without disrupting the carefully maintained order that Sophia required. What made Rosa different from the parade of housekeepers who had preceded her was her approach to the children. Previous staff members had maintained professional distance, acknowledging Emma and Lily with polite smiles but focusing entirely on their cleaning duties. Rosa, however, seemed to genuinely enjoy the girls' company. She would listen to Emma's elaborate explanations of science projects with genuine interest and admire Lily's latest drawings with enthusiasm that didn't feel manufactured. Sophia appreciated this connection, though she maintained clear boundaries. Rosa was household staff, not a babysitter or nanny. Her job was to clean, organize, and maintain the household systems that allowed Sophia to focus on running her company. The relationship worked precisely because everyone understood their roles and respected the established parameters. On this particular Tuesday morning in late September, Sophia had planned to spend the entire day at her downtown office, working on the final presentation for a merger that could potentially double her company's valuation. She had left the penthouse at 7:30, after ensuring the girls were properly dressed and ready for the private car service that would take them to school. Rosa wasn't scheduled to arrive until 9, giving Sophia confidence that the morning routine would proceed exactly as planned. But technology conferences, even ones you're not attending, have a way of disrupting the most carefully laid plans. The merger meeting was postponed when Sophia's potential partner called from Tokyo to explain that their board needed additional documentation before proceeding. Rather than waste the morning in her office, Sophia decided to return home and work on the presentation from her private study, where she could spread documents across her large oak desk and think without the constant interruptions that came with office life. She arrived back at the penthouse around 10:15, using her private elevator key to ascend directly to the 42nd floor. The first thing she noticed was the sound of voices coming from the kitchen, which struck her as unusual. Rosa typically worked in silence, moving through the apartment with the efficient quiet of someone who understood that noise was unwelcome in a space designed for concentration. Sophia set her briefcase down in the entry foyer and moved toward the kitchen, not with suspicion but with curiosity. The voices were too soft to understand from a distance, but she could distinguish Rosa's accented English mixed with what sounded like her daughter's higher-pitched responses. This puzzled her because Emma and Lily should have been at school, safely ensconced in their Tuesday morning mathematics lesson. As she approached the kitchen, Sophia realized the girls were indeed home, their school uniforms replaced by casual clothes. Before she could process why they weren't in class, the content of the conversation stopped her completely. Rosa was seated at the granite kitchen island with Emma and Lily positioned on either side of her, their attention focused entirely on what appeared to be a serious lesson. In front of them lay several index cards covered with handwritten numbers, and Rosa held a cell phone in her hands as she spoke. "Remember me as, if someone tries to take you when I'm not here, when your mama is not here, you call this number first," Rosa was saying, pointing to one of the cards. 911, yes, but if 911 is too scary, if you can't remember, you call this other number. This is my sister Carmen, she will know what to do, and she will come find you. Emma, always the questioner, raised her small hand. But what if we can't reach the phone? What if someone won't let us? Rosa's expression became more serious, her voice dropping to an almost whisper. Then you remember what I taught you about making noise, about running to places where other people can see you. You remember that hiding is sometimes better than fighting, and that being smart is better than being brave. Lily, who rarely spoke during practical conversations, surprised everyone by asking, "Rosa, why do you know these things? Did someone try to take you when you were little?" The silence that followed stretched long enough for Sophia to realize she was holding her breath. Rosa looked down at her hands, then back at the girls, her expression carrying a weight that seemed far too heavy for a conversation about emergency procedures. Sometimes, pequeñas, people learn these things because they have to. Because the world is not always safe, even for little girls who are smart and loved and protected. Rosa paused, choosing her words carefully. "I learned because I had a little sister once, and I couldn't protect her the way I wanted to. But I can teach you how to protect yourselves, so you never have to be scared the way I was scared." Sophia felt something cold settle in her stomach. She remained frozen in the hallway, understanding that she was witnessing something far more significant than a housekeeper overstepping her boundaries. This was a woman with experience, with knowledge born from trauma, sharing survival skills with two little girls who lived in a world where such knowledge shouldn't be necessary. Emma, with her characteristic directness, asked the question Sophia found herself desperately wanting answered. "What happened to your sister, Rosa?" Rosa was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing patterns on the granite countertop. When she spoke, her voice carried an ache that made Sophia's chest tighten. "She disappeared one day when she was walking home from school. She was 9 years old, 2 years older than you are now. The police looked for her, and our family looked for her, and the whole neighborhood looked for her. But we never found her." Rosa looked up at both girls, her eyes bright with unshed tears. That was 15 years ago, and I still look for her sometimes. I still hope, but I also know that if she had known the things I'm teaching you, maybe she would have come home that day." The silence in the kitchen was profound. Even Lily, usually quick to offer comfort when someone seemed sad, remained still, absorbing the gravity of what had been shared. Emma reached across the space between them and patted Rosa's hand, a gesture so gentle and mature that it caught Sophia off guard. "We'll remember everything you taught us," Emma said solemnly, "and we'll teach other kids too, so they can be safe." Rosa smiled then, a real smile that transformed her entire face. "That's my smart girl. Both of my smart girls." Sophia realized she needed to make a decision about how to handle this situation. She could enter the kitchen and confront Rosa about why the children weren't in school, about why she was discussing kidnapping and emergency procedures without parental permission. She could assert her authority as both employer and mother, re-establish boundaries, and ensure this type of conversation never happened again. Or she could acknowledge that what she had just witnessed was a woman with painful personal experience, providing her daughters with knowledge that could genuinely protect them, delivered with obvious love and careful consideration for their emotional well-being. The rational part of her mind, the part that had built a successful company through careful control and systematic decision-making, insisted that boundaries existed for important reasons. Rosa was overstepping her role, involving herself in parenting decisions that weren't her responsibility, and potentially traumatizing two young children with unnecessary fears about a world that for them was safe and controlled. But another part of her mind, one that rarely had opportunity to speak, recognized something in Rosa's manner that resonated deeply. This wasn't a housekeeper exceeding her authority. This was a woman who had lost someone precious, sharing hard-won wisdom with children she had come to care about. The love in her voice when she called them "my smart girls" was unmistakable, and the careful way she had presented frightening information suggested someone who understood both the necessity of knowledge and the importance of preserving innocence. Before Sophia could decide on her approach, Lily asked another question that changed the entire dynamic of the moment. "Rosa, do you have other kids now? Kids who are safe?" Rosa shook her head slowly. "No, Pequeña. I never had children of my own. After what happened to my sister, I was too afraid. I thought if I loved someone that much again, if I had someone that precious to protect, and something happened to them." She trailed off, then continued with obvious effort. "But being with you too, taking care of this house, watching you grow and learn, it makes me think maybe I was wrong to be so afraid." Sophia felt her throat constrict. She was witnessing an incredibly intimate moment, one that revealed layers of her employee's character that she had never suspected existed. Rosa wasn't just a housekeeper who happened to be good with children. She was a woman carrying profound loss, who had found a form of healing in caring for Emma and Lily. The conversation in the kitchen continued, with Rosa explaining more practical safety measures in terms the girls could understand and remember. She talked about trusted adults, about the difference between secrets that were fun and secrets that were dangerous, about how to make themselves heard if they were ever in trouble. Her approach was methodical but gentle, informative without being frightening. Sophia found herself taking mental notes, realizing that despite her efforts to protect her daughters through privilege and isolation, she had never actually prepared them for the possibility that their safety systems might fail. She had assumed that good schools, private transportation and careful supervision created an impenetrable barrier against danger. Rosa, with her painful personal experience, understood that no barrier was truly impenetrable. As the lesson wound down, Rosa gathered the index cards and handed one to each girl. "You keep these somewhere safe, somewhere you can remember, and you practice these numbers until you know them by heart, just like you know your own address and your mama's phone number." Emma studied her cards seriously. "Should we tell Mama about this?" Rosa paused, and Sophia could see the internal struggle playing across her face. She was clearly aware that she had stepped outside the boundaries of her employment, but equally clearly believed that what she had shared was important enough to justify that transgression. "Your mama loves you very much," Rosa said finally. "She works very hard to keep you safe and to give you everything you need. If you want to tell her what we talked about, that's okay. If you want to keep it as something special between us, that's okay too. The important thing is that you remember what you learned." This response bothered Sophia in ways she couldn't immediately identify. It wasn't manipulative, exactly, but it did place the children in the position of deciding whether to share information with their mother. She found herself both impressed by Rosa's respect for the girls' autonomy and concerned about the implicit suggestion that this conversation might be something to keep private. Before she could process these conflicting reactions fully, Lily asked the question that would haunt Sophia for the rest of the day. "Rosa, if someone tried to take us, would you come find us, like the police and our family would come find us?" Rosa's response was immediate and fierce. "Mija, I would turn the world upside down to find you. Both of you. I would never stop looking, never stop fighting, never stop believing that you were coming home." She pulled both girls closer to her, an embrace that was protective and desperate at the same time. "You are not my daughters by blood, but you are my daughters by choice. And that means something very important." Sophia felt tears gathering in her eyes before she could stop them. She had built her daughters' lives around structure and achievement, around opportunities and advantages, but she had never spoken to them with the raw emotional honesty that Rosa had just demonstrated. She loved Emma and Lily fiercely, but that love was expressed through providing for them, protecting them through systems and resources rather than through the vulnerable admission of how much they meant to her. The sound of her phone buzzing with a text message broke through her emotional paralysis. She glanced down to see a message from the girls' school. "Emma and Lily Chen marked absent today. Please confirm if this is excused. Contact office if this is an error." This simple message forced Sophia to confront the immediate practical question: why were her daughters home from school on a Tuesday morning? She had personally seen them dressed and ready for pickup by their usual driver. Something had clearly disrupted their normal routine, and Rosa's presence during what should have been school hours suggested she might have answers. Sophia decided to announce her presence rather than continue eavesdropping. She cleared her throat softly and stepped into the kitchen, watching as three faces turned toward her with expressions ranging from surprise to guilt to something that looked almost like relief. "Good morning," she said, keeping her voice calm and neutral. "I wasn't expecting to find everyone home today." Emma and Lily immediately ran to her, their usual enthusiastic greeting slightly subdued by whatever residual seriousness remained from their conversation with Rosa. Sophia hugged them both, inhaling the familiar scent of their strawberry shampoo, and noting that they seemed perfectly fine, not traumatized or upset by whatever they had been discussing. Rosa stood more slowly, her posture respectful but not submissive. "Miss Chen, I can explain about the girls being home."
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. There was an incident at the school this morning. Sophia felt her protective instincts immediately activate. "What kind of incident? Are they hurt? Why wasn't I called?" No, they're fine," Rosa assured her quickly. "There was a problem with the heating system at the school. They sent all the children home around 9:30 and said classes would resume tomorrow. The driver brought them back here because this was the address on file for early dismissal." This explanation made sense, and Sophia felt her tension ease slightly. Private schools were cautious about maintaining optimal learning environments, and temporary heating failures in September weren't uncommon. What puzzled her was why she hadn't received notification directly from the school. As if reading her thoughts, Rosa continued, "I think they tried to call you, but you had already left for your meeting. The driver said they called the emergency contact number and got permission to bring the girls home."
Sophia realized that Rosa was listed as an emergency contact for situations exactly like this. She had added Rosa's information to the school files several months ago, after a day when both she and Marcus had been unreachable during a minor playground injury. At the time, it had seemed like a sensible precaution. Now she understood that this designation carried more responsibility than she had considered. "I see," Sophia said. "And you've been taking care of them since they arrived home?" Rosa nodded. "I was already here for my regular cleaning day. When they came home early, I thought it was better to stay and supervise than to leave them alone, even for a short time." This was logical and responsible, exactly what Sophia would have wanted in such circumstances. But it still didn't explain the emergency numbers conversation she had overheard, or the deeply personal stories Rosa had shared about her missing sister. Before Sophia could decide how to address these topics, Emma took charge of the situation with her characteristic directness. "Mama, Rosa was teaching us important safety things. She knows a lot about keeping kids safe because something bad happened to her sister when she was little." Lily nodded seriously. "Rosa taught us phone numbers to call if someone tries to take us somewhere we don't want to go. She made us promise to remember them." Sophia looked at Rosa, who met her gaze steadily despite the obvious awkwardness of the situation. There was no defensiveness in her expression, but there was something that looked like quiet determination. "I hope that was appropriate," Rosa said carefully. "I know it's not exactly part of my job duties, but when they asked me about staying safe, I thought it was important to give them real information." This response intrigued Sophia. Rosa was acknowledging that she had stepped outside her defined role while simultaneously defending the value of what she had done. It suggested someone who was willing to accept consequences for actions she believed were necessary, which spoke to both integrity and strong personal convictions. Sophia found herself in an unexpected position. She could reassert her authority as both employer and parent, thanking Rosa for her concern but making it clear that such discussions should be left to the parents. This would maintain appropriate boundaries and ensure that her daughter's education about safety and security remained under her control. Alternatively, she could acknowledge that Rosa had provided her daughters with valuable information delivered in an age-appropriate way by someone with relevant personal experience. The emergency contact numbers, the practical safety advice, and even the emotional context of Rosa's personal loss could be seen as genuine gifts rather than unwelcome intrusions. The decision was complicated by her growing realization that she had never actually had these conversations with Emma and Lily herself. Despite her success in business and her careful attention to their education and development, she had somehow assumed that basic safety knowledge would be covered by their school or emerge naturally as they grew older. Rosa's initiative had revealed a gap in her parenting that she hadn't recognized existed. "Can you show me the numbers Rosa taught you?" Sophia asked the girls, choosing to gather information before making any judgments. Emma and Lily proudly displayed their index cards explaining each number and its purpose with the thoroughness of students who had been paying close attention to an important lesson. Sophia noted that the numbers included not just 911, but also Rosa's sister's phone number, the non-emergency police line, and even the main number for their school. "Rosa said we should always try to call you first," Lily explained, "but if we can't reach you, we have other people who can help us." Sophia examined the cards more closely, noting the careful handwriting and the small hearts Rosa had drawn in the corners. These weren't hastily scrawled emergency contacts. They were thoughtfully prepared resources created by someone who understood both the importance of the information and the need to present it in a way that felt secure rather than frightening. "This is very thorough," Sophia said, looking at Rosa with a mixture of curiosity and something approaching respect. "You've obviously put a lot of thought into this." Rosa's response surprised her with its honesty. "Miss Chen, I've been working in people's homes for 12 years, and I've taken care of many children. Most of them live in safe neighborhoods with good schools and loving families, just like Emma and Lily. But safe doesn't mean invulnerable, and loving doesn't mean prepared for everything." She paused, choosing her words carefully. I've seen what happens when children don't know what to do in emergencies. I've seen families who thought their resources and their care were enough protection, and learned too late that knowledge is the most important protection of all. Sophia felt a chill at the implication behind Rosa's words. You're saying you've known other families who experienced dangerous situations? Rosa nodded slowly. 3 years ago, I worked for a family in Medina. Beautiful house, wonderful parents, 2 little boys who were smart and happy and safe. Until the day they weren't. She looked down at her hands, then back up at Sophia. Someone broke into their house during the day while the parents were at work and the boys were home with a babysitter. The babysitter panicked and hid. The boys didn't know what to do, didn't know who to call or how to call them. The silence in the kitchen was profound. Sophia felt her chest tighten as she imagined Emma and Lily in such a situation, uncertain and afraid and unprepared. What happened to the boys? She asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. They were okay. Physically, Rosa said. The police came quickly, and the intruder ran when he realized the house wasn't empty. But the boys were traumatized and the family never felt safe again. They moved away 6 months later. Rosa's voice grew stronger as she continued. After that, I promised myself that any children I cared for would know how to protect themselves. Not to scare them, not to make them afraid of the world, but to give them tools and confidence. Sophia found herself reconsidering everything she thought she knew about household security and child safety. Her penthouse had state-of-the-art alarm systems, controlled access, and carefully vetted staff. She had assumed these measures created a secure environment where her daughters could grow up without fear or concern. But Rosa's experience suggested that no system was foolproof, and that preparation was as important as prevention. The emergency numbers you taught them, Sophia said, your sister's number is on there. Would she really respond if Emma and Lily called her? Rosa's expression became fierce with conviction. Carmen lives 15 minutes from here, and she has 4 children of her own. She knows about Emma and Lily, knows how much they mean to me. If they called her, she would drop everything and come immediately. And if something had happened to me too, she would make sure they were safe until you could get to them. This revelation opened up entirely new questions about Rosa's life and her connection to the family. Sophia realized she knew virtually nothing about her housekeeper's personal circumstances beyond her work schedule and her efficiency with household tasks. The idea that Rosa had family nearby, that she had spoken about Emma and Lily to her sister, that she had created a safety network that extended beyond the formal employment relationship, suggested a level of personal investment that went far beyond professional duty. Rosa, Sophia said carefully, how long have you been thinking about these safety issues? This seems like something you've planned very carefully. Rosa looked slightly uncomfortable, as if she was about to admit something she wasn't sure would be well received. Miss Chen, I started thinking about it the second week I worked here. When I realized how much Emma and Lily trusted me, how comfortable they were with me, I knew I had a responsibility to them that went beyond cleaning and organizing. She took a deep breath before continuing. I've been teaching them little things over the past few months. How to lock doors properly, how to answer the phone safely, how to recognize when adults are asking them to do things that don't feel right. Today was the first time we talked about emergency numbers specifically, but it wasn't the first time we talked about staying safe. Sophia felt a complex mix of emotions. On one hand, she was impressed by Rosa's thoughtfulness and her obvious genuine care for the girls. On the other hand, she was somewhat unsettled by the realization that significant conversations about safety and protection had been happening in her home without her knowledge or participation. Why didn't you discuss this with me first? She asked, keeping her tone curious rather than accusatory. These are important topics that most parents want to address themselves. Rosa's answer revealed more about her character than Sophia had expected. Because I wasn't sure you would understand why it was necessary. You've built a very safe world for your daughters, Miss Chen. Safe school, safe home, safe routines. It's beautiful, and it comes from love, but it also comes from privilege that not everyone has. She gestured toward the windows that offered a stunning view of Seattle's skyline. Up here, it's easy to believe that bad things happen to other people, in other places to other families, and maybe that's true most of the time. But the one time it's not true is the time that matters most. Rosa's voice grew softer, more personal. I didn't want to frighten you, or make you feel like your protection wasn't enough. But I also couldn't pretend that my experience doesn't matter, that what I learned from losing my sister doesn't have value for keeping Emma and Lily safe. Sophia found herself deeply moved by this explanation. Rosa had identified a blind spot in her parenting that arose directly from her privilege and her success. She had created a secure environment for her daughters, but she had also insulated them from the knowledge that might be necessary if that environment ever failed. More than that, Rosa had recognized this gap and taken action to address it, not out of criticism for Sophia's parenting, but out of love for Emma and Lily. The risk she had taken in stepping outside her defined roles spoke to the depth of her commitment to their well-being. Before Sophia could respond, Emma spoke up with a question that cut to the heart of the entire situation. "Mama, are you mad at Rosa for teaching us safety things?" Sophia looked down at her daughter's serious face, then at Lily, who was watching the interaction with obvious concern. She realized that her response to this moment would shape not just her relationship with Rosa, but also her daughter's understanding of how adults handle disagreements and different perspectives on important issues. "I'm not mad," Sophia said slowly, and realized as she spoke that this was true. "I'm surprised, and I'm thinking about everything Rosa taught you, and I'm trying to decide what I think about it." She looked at Rosa, who was waiting with patient attention for whatever judgment was coming. "What I'm realizing is that Rosa knows things about staying safe that I don't know. She's had experiences that I haven't had, and she's learned things that I haven't learned. That knowledge could be very important for keeping you safe." Emma nodded seriously. "So Rosa can keep teaching us safety things." Sophia paused, understanding that this question required a decision that would define the boundaries and expectations of Rosa's role in their household going forward. She could maintain the traditional employer-employee relationship, accepting Rosa's knowledge while establishing clear protocols for any future discussions about safety or other important topics. Or she could acknowledge that what had happened today represented something more significant than a housekeeper overstepping her boundaries. Rosa had revealed herself to be someone with valuable life experience, genuine care for Emma and Lily, and the wisdom to share difficult knowledge in age-appropriate ways. The decision required Sophia to examine her own assumptions about protection, privilege, and the sources of valuable guidance for her daughters. Looking at Rosa, she saw not just an employee who had exceeded her job description, but a woman who had suffered a profound loss and chosen to use that experience to protect other children. The love in her voice when she spoke to Emma and Lily, the careful way she had prepared the emergency contact cards, and the obvious thought she had put into presenting frightening information without creating unnecessary fear, all spoke to someone who understood both the responsibilities and the challenges of caring for children. "Rosa," Sophia said finally, "I would like to know more about what you think Emma and Lily should learn about staying safe, and I would like to understand more about your experience and your perspective on these issues." Rosa's expression showed both relief and surprise. "You want to know more?" Sophia nodded. "I want to know what other families you've worked with have taught their children. I want to know what happened to your sister, if you're comfortable sharing that. And I want to know what you think I should be doing differently to prepare Emma and Lily for situations I hope they never encounter." This request seemed to transform the entire dynamic in the kitchen. Rosa straightened slightly, her posture shifting from defensive to collaborative. Emma and Lily looked between their mother and Rosa with obvious satisfaction, as if they had been hoping for exactly this type of conversation. "There's a lot to talk about," Rosa said carefully. "Some of it is difficult to hear." Sophia looked at her daughters, then back at Rosa. I think we can handle difficult conversations as long as they're honest and they're meant to help. Rosa smiled then, the first genuine smile Sophia had seen from her since entering the kitchen. Then I think we should start with the story of what happened to my sister Maria and what I learned from losing her. Because that story is the reason I know how to protect children, and it's the reason I care so much about teaching Emma and Lily how to protect themselves. As Rosa began to settle into what was clearly going to be a long and serious conversation, Sophia realized that her morning had taken a direction she never could have anticipated. She had come home early to work on a business presentation and instead found herself about to learn about loss, protection, and the hidden vulnerabilities that existed even in carefully constructed safe spaces. But more than that, she was about to learn about the woman who had been caring for her daughters for 8 months and discover that Rosa Martinez was far more complex, experienced, and valuable than she had ever imagined. The conversation that was about to unfold would change everything Sophia thought she knew about security, about trust, and about the unexpected places where wisdom and protection could be found. Rosa's story unfolded slowly, like a photograph developing in darkness, each detail adding depth to an image Sophia hadn't known existed. They sat around the kitchen island while Emma and Lily played quietly in the adjacent living room, close enough to feel secure but far enough to give the adults space for difficult truths. Maria had been 9 years old when she disappeared from the streets of East Los Angeles, walking home from an after-school program that was supposed to keep kids safe while their parents worked late shifts. Rosa, at 14, had been responsible for picking her up that day, but her own job at a local market had run longer than expected. By the time she arrived at the community center, Maria was gone. The coordinator said she got tired of waiting and decided to walk home alone, Rosa explained, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly as she traced patterns on the granite surface. It was only 6 blocks, and Maria was smart, responsible. She knew the route. We never thought. The search had consumed their neighborhood for weeks. Rosa's parents, both working multiple jobs to support their family of 5, had taken turns staying home to coordinate with police and volunteers. Rosa had walked those 6 blocks hundreds of times, knocking on doors, showing Maria's school picture to anyone who would look, following up on leads that inevitably led nowhere. The hardest part wasn't not knowing what happened, Rosa continued. It was knowing that if I had been there on time, if I had put my responsibility to her before my job, she would have come home. She trusted me to protect her, and I failed. Sophia found herself studying Rosa's face, seeing layers of pain that had been invisible during their previous interactions. She had hired someone to clean her house and had inadvertently brought someone into her life who carried the weight of profound loss and guilt. The careful way Rosa moved through their home, the attention she paid to details, the genuine affection she showed Emma and Lily suddenly made sense in a different context. What did the police think happened? Sophia asked gently. Rosa's expression darkened. They thought she was a runaway at first, a Latina girl from a poor family disappearing after school. They said kids like Maria often ran away to escape difficult home situations or to find excitement in the city. It took 3 weeks before they classified her as a missing person instead of a runaway. The institutional failure Rosa described made Sophia's chest tighten with anger. She imagined her own daughters disappearing and the immediate response their case would receive, the resources that would be deployed, the media attention that would follow. The disparity was stark and undeniable. When they finally started investigating seriously, the trail was cold, Rosa continued. Witnesses had forgotten details, security cameras had been recycled, evidence had been contaminated or lost. The coordinator at the community center admitted she hadn't actually seen Maria leave, just assumed she had when Rosa didn't show up, and Maria wasn't in the building. Rosa paused, looking toward the living room where Emma and Lily were building an elaborate structure with blocks. I learned that day that assumptions can kill. The coordinator assumed Maria would wait. I assumed my job wouldn't run late. Maria assumed someone would be there to walk her home safely. Every assumption was wrong, and she paid the price. This revelation resonated with Sophia in unexpected ways. Her own life was built on assumptions about safety, security, and predictability. She assumed her daughter's school would protect them, that her penthouse was secure, that their routine created reliable safety. Rosa's experience suggested that even reasonable assumptions could prove fatally flawed. "Is that why you took this job?" Sophia asked. "Working in homes with children." Rosa nodded slowly. "After Maria disappeared, I couldn't function normally for almost 2 years. I dropped out of high school, couldn't hold jobs, barely left my room. The guilt was eating me alive." She looked up at Sophia with eyes that held old pain but also hard-won wisdom. "My mother finally told me that if I really wanted to honor Maria's memory, I needed to stop destroying myself and start protecting other children." The transformation hadn't been immediate or easy. Rosa had earned her GED while working nights at a cleaning service, gradually building the skills and references that allowed her to move into private household work. She had specifically sought positions with families that had children, understanding that her experience with loss had given her insights into protection that other caregivers might lack. "Every family I've worked with, I've seen things that could be improved for the children's safety," Rosa explained. "Sometimes it's simple things like making sure kids know their full address and phone number. Sometimes it's bigger things like teaching them to trust their instincts when adults make them uncomfortable." Rosa pulled out her phone and showed Sophia a folder of photos she had taken over the years. Pictures of children she had cared for, safety checklists she had developed, thank you notes from parents. The collection represented a systematic approach to child protection informed by personal tragedy, but focused on prevention and empowerment. "This is much more than a job for you," Sophia observed. "It's my life's work," Rosa confirmed. "I couldn't save Maria, but I can use what I learned from losing her to keep other children safe. It doesn't bring her back, but it gives meaning to her loss." Sophia felt something shifting in her understanding of the woman she had employed for 8 months. Rosa wasn't just a housekeeper who happened to be good with children. She was someone who had transformed personal trauma into professional purpose. The care she showed Emma and Lily wasn't just kindness. It was mission-driven dedication born from the deepest kind of loss. "The emergency numbers you taught the girls today," Sophia said, "that's part of a larger system you've developed." Rosa nodded. "Every child should know multiple ways to get help. Parents, teachers, police, but also family friends, neighbors, other trusted adults. The more options they have, the more likely they are to reach someone who can actually help them." She pulled out a notebook from her purse, pages filled with handwritten plans and checklists. "I customize the safety education for each family based on their circumstances, their neighborhood, their children's ages and personalities." Emma and Lily needed to know about building security, elevator safety, what to do if they're ever separated from you in public places. Sophia examined the notebook, amazed by the thoroughness of Rosa's preparation. There were sections on different types of emergencies, age-appropriate language for explaining various dangers, and strategies for building children's confidence without creating excessive fear. "You've been planning this for months," Sophia realized. "I've been observing for months," Rosa corrected. "Emma and Lily are wonderful children, but they've been protected in ways that also leave them vulnerable. They trust easily, they follow instructions from adults without question, and they've never been taught to recognize when situations might be dangerous." Rosa's assessment wasn't criticism, but it was clear-eyed evaluation that made Sophia uncomfortable. She had raised her daughters to be polite, obedient, and trusting because these qualities served them well in their privileged environment. The possibility that these same qualities could make them targets hadn't occurred to her. "What specific vulnerabilities have you noticed?" Sophia asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to hear the answer. Rosa chose her words carefully. "They tell strangers their full names and where they live when asked friendly questions. They would follow an adult who claimed to be helping them or who said you had sent them. They don't know how to make noise or draw attention if someone was trying to take them somewhere against their will. Each point hit Sophia like a small shock. These weren't character flaws in her daughters. They were evidence of successful socialization within a secure environment. But Rosa's perspective revealed how the same behaviors that made Emma and Lily lovely children could make them easy targets for people with harmful intentions. The twins at the Pemberton family last year, Rosa continued, referring to a wealthy Seattle family that had made headlines. They were taken from their private school playground because they believed an adult who said their mother had been in an accident and sent him to pick them up. Smart children, loving family, excellent school, but no one had ever taught them to verify stories like that. Sophia remembered the case. The Pemberton twins had been found safely after a terrifying 12-hour search, but the incident had shaken the entire private school community. She had assumed it was an isolated incident, poor security at that particular school, rather than a broader vulnerability. You think Emma and Lily could be targets for the same kind of approach? Rosa's expression was gentle but serious. Miss Chen, your daughters attend one of the most expensive schools in the state. They live in a penthouse that screams wealth and privilege. They're beautiful, well-dressed, clearly loved and well cared for. Someone looking for children to target would see them as ideal candidates. The bluntness of this assessment hit Sophia harder than she had expected. She had created a lifestyle for her daughters that provided them with every advantage, but Rosa was pointing out that some of those same advantages could make them appealing to dangerous people. What happened to the Pemberton children? Sophia asked. After they were found, Rosa's expression grew sad. The family moved to Vancouver 6 months later. The children developed anxiety, needed therapy, started having nightmares. The parents blamed themselves, blamed the school, blamed each other. The marriage didn't survive. This outcome terrified Sophia more than the original kidnapping. She could imagine the guilt and recrimination that would follow if something happened to Emma and Lily because she had failed to prepare them adequately. The idea that such an incident could destroy not just their sense of security, but their entire family structure was devastating. How do we prevent that? Sophia asked. How do we keep them safe without making them afraid of the world? Rosa's smile was the first truly warm expression Sophia had seen from her during this conversation. That's exactly the right question. Safety education isn't about creating fear, it's about creating confidence. Children who know how to recognize danger and respond to it appropriately are actually less anxious than children who sense that dangers exist but don't know what to do about them. Over the next hour, Rosa outlined a comprehensive approach to safety education that was both practical and age-appropriate. The goal wasn't to make Emma and Lily suspicious of every adult they encountered, but to give them tools for distinguishing between safe and potentially unsafe situations. We start with body autonomy, Rosa explained. They need to understand that they have the right to say no to physical contact that makes them uncomfortable, even from family members or authority figures. This builds the foundation for recognizing when other boundaries are being crossed. Sophia realized that this was another area where her well-intentioned parenting might have created vulnerabilities. She had taught Emma and Lily to be polite to adults, to hug relatives even when they didn't want to submit to authority figures without question. These lessons in social compliance could undermine their ability to protect themselves. The emergency contacts are just one piece, Rosa continued. They also need to know how to make themselves heard in public, how to recognize trustworthy adults when they need help, how to stay calm in scary situations, so they can think clearly. Rosa pulled out another section of her notebook, showing Sophia detailed scenarios and responses she had developed. There were role-playing exercises for different types of emergencies, games that taught safety concepts without creating trauma, and systems for regularly reviewing and updating safety plans as children grew older. This is incredibly sophisticated, Sophia said, genuinely impressed.
You've created an entire curriculum. I've had 15 years to think about what could have saved Maria, Rosa replied simply. And I've had 12 years of working with families to test and refine these approaches. Sophia found herself reconsidering everything she thought she knew about child safety and protection. Her approach had been passive, relying on external systems and institutional safeguards. Rosa's approach was active, focused on building internal capabilities and adaptive responses. Would you be willing to teach me these approaches so I can reinforce them with Emma and Lily? Sophia asked. Rosa's surprise was evident. You want to learn the safety protocols. I want to understand what my daughters need to know to be truly protected. Sophia clarified. And I want to understand why you know things about keeping children safe that I don't. This request seemed to transform something in Rosa's demeanor. She had been sharing her knowledge defensively, prepared to justify her actions and explain her methods. Now she was being asked to teach, to share her expertise as a valued resource rather than defend it as an unauthorized intervention. There's a lot to cover, Rosa warned, and some of it will be difficult for you to hear, because it challenges assumptions about how safe environments actually work. Sophia nodded.
I think I'm beginning to understand that my assumptions about safety might be more limited than I realized. As Rosa began outlining a more comprehensive safety education plan, Sophia heard Emma and Lily's voices from the living room, engaged in some elaborate game involving their blocks and stuffed animals. Their laughter was carefree and innocent, the sound of children who felt completely secure in their world. But now Sophia understood that true security required more than just creating safe environments. It required preparing children to recognize and respond to situations where those environments might fail. Rosa's painful experience had taught her lessons that no amount of privilege or resources could provide. Rosa, Sophia said as they took a break from the detailed planning, I need to ask you something personal. Rosa looked up from her notebook, attentive but slightly wary. When you decided to work with families, to make child safety your life's work, did you ever think about having children of your own? The question seemed to hit Rosa unexpectedly. She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the edge of her notebook. For a long time I was too afraid, she said finally. I thought if I loved someone that much again, if I had someone that precious to protect, and I failed them the way I failed Maria. She trailed off, then continued with obvious effort. I thought the risk was too great. Rosa looked toward the living room where Emma and Lily were now singing some song they had learned at school, their voices blending in imperfect harmony. But working with children like Emma and Lily, seeing how much they can learn, how capable they can become when they're taught properly, it makes me think maybe I was wrong to be so afraid. Maybe the answer isn't avoiding love because love can be lost. Maybe the answer is loving so completely that you do everything possible to protect what you love. Sophia felt a tightness in her throat that she hadn't expected. She was beginning to understand that Rosa's relationship with Emma and Lily wasn't just professional affection or even surrogate maternal feelings. It was the gradual healing of someone who had closed herself off from the possibility of loving children because the risk of loss felt too devastating to bear. Do you love them? Sophia asked quietly.
Emma and Lily.
Rosa's answer was immediate and fierce.
Yes.
Not in a way that challenges your role as their mother, but yes, I love them completely. They've taught me that it's possible to care for children without being paralyzed by fear of losing them. The honesty of this admission moved Sophia more than she had anticipated. She realized that Rosa's investment in Emma and Lily's safety came not just from professional dedication, but from genuine maternal feelings that had been carefully contained within appropriate boundaries. Rosa, I need to tell you something, Sophia said. When I came home and heard you teaching them about emergency numbers, my first instinct was to be upset that you had overstepped your role. Rosa nodded, acknowledging the boundary she had crossed. But now I understand that what you did wasn't overstepping, Sophia continued. It was stepping up. You saw something my daughters needed and provided it because you care about their well-being more than you care about job security or professional boundaries. Rosa looked surprised by this interpretation of her actions.
I've built a successful company by recognizing valuable expertise and incorporating it into my operations, Sophia explained. What you've shown me today is expertise I didn't know I needed, based on experience I hope I never have, applied with wisdom I don't possess. Sophia paused, formulating thoughts she hadn't expected to have when she woke up that morning. I don't want you to just clean my house anymore, Rosa. I want you to help me raise my daughters, not as their nanny or governess, but as someone who brings knowledge and perspective that complements mine. The offer hung in the air between them, more significant than either woman had anticipated when their conversation began. Sophia was proposing a fundamental change in their relationship, one that acknowledged Rosa's value as more than household staff. What would that mean exactly? Rosa asked carefully. It would mean we work together to keep Emma and Lily safe, happy and prepared for whatever challenges they might face, Sophia explained. It would mean I value your input on important decisions about their education, their activities, their development. It would mean you're part of our family in a way that goes beyond employment. Rosa was quiet for a long time, processing the implications of what Sophia was offering. When she finally spoke, her voice carried both gratitude and uncertainty. Miss Chen, I would be honored to help raise Emma and Lily, but I need you to understand something about me, about my situation. Sophia waited, sensing that Rosa was about to share something significant. I've never stayed with one family for more than 2 years, Rosa said. Not because I wanted to leave, but because situations always change. Parents get divorced, families move, children grow up and don't need the same kind of care. I've learned not to get too attached because attachment always ends in loss. Rosa looked directly at Sophia with an expression that was both hopeful and guarded. If I accept what you're offering, if I allow myself to become truly invested in Emma and Lily's lives, I need to know that you won't change your mind when it becomes inconvenient or complicated. The vulnerability in Rosa's voice made Sophia realize how much courage it had taken for her to form attachments to Emma and Lily, given her history of loss and professional impermanence. She was being asked to provide assurance about a future that was inherently uncertain. Rosa, I can't promise that nothing will ever change, Sophia said honestly, but I can promise that any changes won't be arbitrary or based on convenience. You've shown me today that Emma and Lily need what you can provide, and I'm not willing to deprive them of that because of conventional employment boundaries. Before Rosa could respond, Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway with a question that would prove more significant than anyone realized at the time. Mama, can Rosa come to our school presentation next week? We're supposed to invite family members, and she helped us practice our part about being safe. The innocent request crystallized everything that had been discussed over the past several hours. Emma was already thinking of Rosa as family, someone whose presence at important events was natural and expected. The safety lessons that had started this entire conversation had become collaborative efforts that extended beyond basic emergency preparedness. Sophia looked at Rosa, who was clearly moved by Emma's inclusion of her in the category of family members worthy of invitation to school events. I think Rosa should definitely come to your presentation, Sophia said, making the decision in real time. If she's willing, Rosa's smile was radiant. I would love to come to your presentation. As Emma ran back to share this news with Lily, Sophia and Rosa found themselves alone again, the kitchen filled with the weight of decisions that would reshape their relationships with each other and with the children they both loved. This is happening very fast, Rosa observed. Sophia nodded. Sometimes the most important decisions happen quickly, because they're recognizing something that was already true but hadn't been acknowledged. She looked toward the living room where Emma and Lily were now discussing their upcoming presentation with obvious excitement about Rosa's attendance. They already see you as family, Rosa. I'm just catching up to what they've known for months. Over the following days,
Sophia found herself observing her household with new awareness. She noticed how Emma and Lily automatically included Rosa in conversations about their day, how they sought her approval for outfits and homework assignments, how they shared jokes and secrets with her in ways that suggested deep trust and affection. She also noticed things about Rosa that she had previously overlooked. The way she anticipated the girls' needs before they expressed them, the patience she showed when they were struggling with difficult concepts, the gentle but firm boundaries she maintained around behavior and respect. More significantly, Sophia began to understand how Rosa's presence had been quietly improving her daughter's emotional development in ways that went far beyond safety education. Emma's natural assertiveness had been tempered with consideration for others. Lily's artistic sensitivity had been balanced with practical problem-solving skills. Both girls demonstrated emotional resilience that Sophia now realized had been cultivated through Rosa's consistent, caring guidance. The school presentation became a milestone that formalized Rosa's new role in their family. She sat in the front row with Sophia, beaming with pride as Emma and Lily demonstrated the safety skills they had learned. Other parents noticed the interaction between Rosa and the girls, the easy familiarity and obvious affection that characterized their relationship. After the presentation, several other parents approached Sophia to ask about Rosa's background and whether she provided safety education services to other families. The interest was immediate and intense, reflecting a growing awareness among privileged families that their resources might not fully protect their children from all possible dangers. Have you considered that Rosa might want to expand her work beyond our family? Sophia asked during their drive home from the school event. Rosa looked surprised by the suggestion. What do you mean? Several parents tonight were interested in the safety education you've provided Emma and Lily, Sophia explained. There might be demand for your expertise among other families. The idea clearly intrigued Rosa, though she seemed uncertain about the practicalities. I've never thought about working with multiple families in that way. My focus has always been on providing comprehensive care to one family at a time. Sophia's business mind immediately began formulating possibilities. What if we structured it differently? What if you maintained your primary relationship with our family, but also offered consulting services to other families who want to improve their children's safety education? As they discussed the potential for Rosa to develop her safety expertise into a broader service offering, Sophia realized that their conversation had evolved far beyond the immediate questions of household management and child care. They were talking about Rosa's professional development, her long-term goals, and her potential to make a larger impact on child safety in their community. I would want to maintain my commitment to Emma and Lily, Rosa said. They come first, always. Of course, Sophia agreed. But imagine how many children could benefit from what you've learned, what you've developed. Imagine how many families could be better prepared because of your experience. The possibility excited Rosa in ways that surprised her. For years her work had been private, personal, limited to one family at a time. The idea of sharing her knowledge more broadly, of potentially preventing other tragedies like Maria's disappearance, appealed to the part of her that had been motivated by purpose, rather than just employment. I would need training, Rosa said thoughtfully. Formal credentials, business skills, probably legal guidance about liability and professional standards. Sophia nodded. Those are all manageable challenges. The important question is whether you want to pursue this direction. Rosa was quiet for several minutes, processing the implications of such a significant change in her career trajectory. When she finally spoke, her voice carried both excitement and determination. Yes, she said simply. I think this could be the way to honor Maria's memory on a scale I never imagined possible. As they pulled into the underground garage of Sophia's building, both women understood that their relationship had fundamentally changed over the course of a single week. What had started as an employer-employee dynamic had evolved into something closer to partnership, with shared goals that extended beyond the immediate needs of Emma and Lily. but neither of them anticipated the challenges that would test their new arrangement, or the external forces that would soon threaten not just their professional collaboration, but the safety and security of the entire family they were working together to protect. The threatening letter arrived on a Thursday morning, delivered by special courier to Sophia's office building. Her assistant Jennifer brought it to her desk with a worried expression, noting that the sender had specifically requested immediate personal delivery to Miss Chen and no one else. Inside the manila envelope was a single sheet of paper with words cut from magazines and newspapers, arranged in a message that made Sophia's blood run cold. Your daughters are not as safe as you think. Rosa Martinez knows more than she tells you. Ask her about the Phoenix family. Some secrets have consequences. Sophia read the message 3 times before the implications fully registered. Someone knew about Rosa's work with other families. Someone was threatening Emma and Lily, and somehow Rosa's past was connected to a danger that had found its way to their doorstep. She immediately called Rosa, who was at the penthouse with the girls after their early dismissal from school due to a teacher planning day. Rosa answered on the first ring, her voice cheerful and relaxed. Miss Chen, is everything okay? You sound tense. Sophia struggled to keep her voice calm. Rosa, I need you to make sure the doors are locked and the security system is armed. Don't let anyone into the building, not even delivery people or maintenance staff. I'm coming home immediately. The shift in Rosa's tone was immediate and serious. What's happened? Are we in danger? I don't know yet, but I received a threatening message about the girls. It mentioned you specifically, and something about a Phoenix family. I'll explain everything when I get there, but please just keep Emma and Lily close and don't leave the apartment. During the 20-minute drive home, Sophia's mind raced through possibilities. The Phoenix family reference suggested someone with detailed knowledge of Rosa's employment history. The specific mention of secrets implied information that wasn't publicly available. Most disturbing was the direct threat to Emma and Lily, combined with the suggestion that Rosa was somehow connected to their vulnerability. When Sophia arrived at the penthouse, she found Rosa in the living room with Emma and Lily, engaging them in a quiet art project while maintaining a watchful eye on all the windows and entrances.
The girls seemed unaware of any tension, absorbed in their drawing and chattering about their plans for the weekend. Can we talk privately? Sophia asked Rosa, gesturing toward the kitchen. Rosa nodded and asked Emma and Lily to continue working on their pictures while she helped their mother with something in the next room. Both girls agreed cheerfully, accustomed to brief adult conversations that didn't concern them. In the kitchen, Sophia showed Rosa the threatening letter. Rosa's face paled as she read the message, her hands trembling slightly as she set the paper down on the counter. The Phoenix family, Rosa said quietly. I wondered if this day would ever come. Sophia felt her stomach drop. You know what this is about? Rosa was quiet for a long moment, gathering herself before responding. 2 years ago, I worked for the Phoenix family in Arizona. David and Margaret Phoenix, with 3 children ages 5, 7, and 9. Wealthy family, beautiful home, everything seemed perfect. Rosa's voice grew more strained as she continued. But David Phoenix was not the man he appeared to be. He was involved in financial crimes, money laundering for very dangerous people. I discovered this by accident when I found documents in his home office while cleaning. Sophia felt dread building in her chest. What did you do? I tried to quit quietly, to just disappear from their lives without causing problems. But Margaret Phoenix was suspicious about my sudden departure. She pressed me for explanations, and eventually I told her what I had found. Rosa sat down heavily in one of the kitchen chairs, the weight of the memory clearly affecting her deeply. Margaret confronted her husband. There was a huge fight, threats of divorce, threats to expose his criminal activities. 3 days later, their oldest child, 9-year-old Michael, was kidnapped from their backyard. The silence that followed was deafening. Sophia understood immediately that Rosa blamed herself for the chain of events that had led to a child's abduction.
The kidnappers demanded that David Phoenix destroy the evidence I had found and pay them $5 million for the safe return of his son. They made it clear that his wife's threats to expose him had created an unacceptable risk to their operations. Sophia's throat was tight with horror. What happened to Michael? He was returned safely after David paid the ransom and agreed to continue laundering money for the criminal organization. But the family was destroyed. Margaret divorced David and moved to Europe with the children. David's business empire collapsed within 6 months. Rosa looked up at Sophia with eyes full of guilt and regret. Before I left Arizona, David Phoenix told me that if any of his associates were ever arrested, or if their operations were disrupted, they would hold me responsible for starting the investigation that led to their exposure. He said they would find me wherever I went and make me pay for the consequences of my interference. Sophia felt the pieces clicking into place with terrible clarity. And now someone from that organization has found you here. Rosa nodded miserably. David Phoenix was arrested 8 months ago on federal charges. His money laundering operation was shut down, and several of his associates were indicted. If this letter is from the people he was working with, they're making good on their threat to hold me accountable. The implication was clear and terrifying. Rosa's past involvement in exposing criminal activity had brought dangerous people into proximity with Emma and Lily. The safety education and protective measures Rosa had implemented were suddenly not just theoretical precautions but urgent necessities. "We need to call the police," Sophia said immediately. Rosa shook her head. "Miss Chen, these people don't make empty threats. If we involve law enforcement now, before we understand exactly what they want, we could escalate the situation in ways that put Emma and Lily in more danger." This response frustrated Sophia, who was accustomed to solving problems through official channels and institutional resources. "Rosa, we can't handle this alone. These are criminals who have already kidnapped one child. We need professional help." "I agree," Rosa said. "But we need the right kind of professional help. The FBI agents who handled the Phoenix case, people who understand how these organizations operate and how to protect families without triggering violent responses." Rosa pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. "I've stayed in touch with Agent Sarah Morrison, who led the investigation into David Phoenix's activities. She told me to contact her immediately if anyone connected to that case ever approached me." While Rosa made the call to Agent Morrison, Sophia returned to the living room to check on Emma and Lily. Both girls were still absorbed in their art projects, but Emma looked up when her mother entered. "Mama, is something wrong? Rosa seemed worried when you came home." Sophia knelt beside her daughter, struggling with how much truth to share. There might be some people who want to cause problems for Rosa because she helped police solve a case involving bad people. "We're making sure everyone stays safe while we figure out what's happening." Lily looked up from her drawing with concern. "Are the bad people going to try to hurt Rosa?" The directness of her daughter's question caught Sophia off guard. She realized that the safety education Rosa had provided the girls had prepared them to understand dangerous situations without becoming paralyzed by fear. "We don't know yet, sweetheart. But Rosa is very smart about staying safe, and we're going to make sure she has all the help she needs." Emma nodded seriously. "Should we practice the emergency things Rosa taught us?" Sophia felt a surge of pride in her daughter's practical response to the situation. Instead of becoming scared or upset, Emma was thinking about preparation and appropriate action. "That's a very good idea," Sophia agreed. "Why don't you and Lily review the emergency numbers while Rosa and I finish talking with some people who can help us?" Rosa returned from her phone call with Agent Morrison looking slightly more hopeful. "Agent Morrison is driving up from Portland immediately. She'll be here by evening, and she's bringing a specialist in witness protection and family security." Sophia felt some of her tension ease. Professional help was coming, people with experience in handling exactly this type of situation. In the meantime, Rosa continued, Agent Morrison recommends that we maintain normal routines but implement additional security measures. She's sending a local FBI agent to provide surveillance of the building, and she wants us to document any suspicious activity or further contact from the people who sent this letter. Over the next several hours, Sophia found herself seeing her home and her family's routines through entirely new eyes. The penthouse that had always felt like a secure sanctuary now seemed vulnerable to outside threats. The predictable schedules that had provided structure and stability now seemed like patterns that could be exploited by people with harmful intentions. Rosa moved through the apartment with heightened awareness, checking locks, monitoring the security system, and positioning herself where she could maintain visual contact with Emma and Lily at all times. Her transformation from housekeeper to security professional was complete and impressive. When Agent Morrison arrived that evening, she brought with her a calm competence that immediately reassured Sophia. Agent Morrison was a woman in her 40s with graying hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to take in every detail of the penthouse and its occupants. "Miss Chen, I want you to know that Rosa's cooperation in the Phoenix investigation was instrumental in shutting down a major criminal operation. Her willingness to come forward despite personal risk probably prevented dozens of other families from being victimized." This perspective on Rosa's actions surprised Sophia. She had been thinking of Rosa's involvement with the Phoenix family as a dangerous mistake that had brought threats to their doorstep. Agent Morrison was presenting it as heroic action that had protected other innocent people. The organization that David Phoenix was working with has been significantly disrupted, Agent Morrison continued. Most of their leadership has been arrested or fled the country, but there are still some associates at large, and they're angry about their losses. Agent Morrison showed them photographs of 3 men who were suspected of being involved in ongoing threats against people who had cooperated with the investigation. None of the faces were familiar to Sophia or Rosa, but Agent Morrison explained that these individuals were professionals who specialized in intimidation and violence. "The threatening letter you received suggests they want something from Rosa," Agent Morrison said. "Possibly information about other criminal activities she might have witnessed, or simply revenge for her role in exposing their operation." Rosa's voice was steady but strained when she responded. "Agent Morrison, I told you everything I knew during the original investigation. I don't have any additional information that would be valuable to them." "I believe you," Agent Morrison said, "but they may not, or they may simply want to make an example of you to discourage other people from cooperating with law enforcement in the future." The conversation continued late into the evening, with Agent Morrison outlining a security plan that would protect the family while allowing the FBI to identify and apprehend the people making threats. The plan involved some disruption to their normal routines, but nothing as dramatic as relocating or assuming new identities. Emma and Lily had been put to bed during the early part of Agent Morrison's visit, but they had listened carefully to the safety reminders Rosa provided during their bedtime routine. Both girls seemed to understand that the situation was serious but manageable, and they expressed confidence in Rosa's ability to keep them safe. After Agent Morrison left to coordinate with local law enforcement, Sophia and Rosa found themselves alone in the kitchen, processing the events of an extraordinary day. "I'm sorry," Rosa said quietly. "I'm sorry that my past has brought danger to your family. I'm sorry that Emma and Lily are now involved in something that has nothing to do with them." Sophia looked at Rosa with a mixture of exhaustion and clarity. "Rosa, you saved other families by exposing those criminals. You've spent years teaching children how to protect themselves because of what you learned from loss and trauma. You've made Emma and Lily safer and stronger, and more prepared for the world than I ever could have alone." Rosa seemed surprised by this response. "But now they're in danger because of decisions I made. Now they're prepared for danger because of everything you've taught them," Sophia corrected, And now we have professional help and security resources because of the relationships you've built with law enforcement." Sophia paused, formulating thoughts that crystallized her understanding of their situation. "Rosa, what's happening now is exactly why Emma and Lily needed the safety education you provided. Not because I anticipated this specific threat, but because the world contains dangers that privilege and resources can't always prevent." Over the following week, the FBI's investigation progressed rapidly. The threatening letter was traced to a mail service used by one of the suspects Agent Morrison had identified. Surveillance footage from the building where the letter was sent provided additional evidence linking the threats to the remnants of David Phoenix's criminal organization. More importantly, the FBI's presence and investigation seemed to deter any escalation of the threats. No further contact was made with Sophia's family, and intelligence sources suggested that the remaining members of the criminal organization were more focused on avoiding arrest than pursuing revenge. Throughout this period, Emma and Lily demonstrated remarkable resilience and adaptability. They followed the additional security protocols without complaint, treated the FBI agents with polite curiosity, and continued their normal activities with minimal disruption. Most significantly, they never wavered in their trust and affection for Rosa. If anything, the crisis seemed to strengthen their bond with her, as they witnessed her courage and competence under genuine pressure. "Rosa protected us from bad people," Emma explained to her father during one of his weekend visits, "just like she taught us to protect ourselves." Marcus, who had been briefed on the situation by Sophia, was initially concerned about Rosa's continued presence in the household. But after meeting with Agent Morrison and observing Rosa's interactions with his daughters, he acknowledged that her expertise and dedication were assets rather than liabilities. "She loves them," he told Sophia privately, "and they love her in a way that I've never been able to achieve." This admission was difficult for Marcus, but it also opened the door to more honest conversations about his role in Emma and Lily's lives, and his support for the family structure that had evolved around Rosa's presence. 2 weeks after the threatening letter arrived, Agent Morrison called with news that brought the crisis to a definitive close. All 3 suspects had been arrested in coordinated raids across 2 states. Evidence found during the arrests confirmed their involvement in threats against Rosa and other witnesses from the Phoenix investigation. "You're safe," Agent Morrison told them during a final visit to the penthouse. "The organization is completely dismantled, and the people who were threatening your family are in federal custody facing charges that will keep them in prison for decades." The relief was overwhelming, but it was also accompanied by a deeper understanding of how their lives had changed during the weeks of uncertainty and danger. "We're not the same family we were a month ago," Sophia observed to Rosa as they watched Emma and Lily play in the living room, their laughter returning to its previous carefree quality. Rosa nodded. "We've been tested in ways I hoped we'd never have to experience. But we came through it together, and that means something important." The crisis had accelerated and deepened changes that had been developing gradually over months. Rosa was no longer an employee who happened to be good with children. She was a full partner in parenting decisions and a recognized member of their family structure. More broadly, Sophia had gained a new appreciation for the complexity of safety and security in a world where privilege provided protection but not immunity from all dangers. Rosa's experience and expertise had proven invaluable not just in the immediate crisis but in preparing Emma and Lily to navigate an uncertain world with confidence and competence.
The consulting business Rosa had discussed during the school presentation became a reality sooner than anyone had anticipated. News of her role in protecting the Chen family during the crisis, combined with her established expertise in child safety education, created immediate demand from other families seeking similar guidance. Working with Sophia's business connections and Agent Morrison's law enforcement network, Rosa developed a comprehensive safety consulting service that provided families with risk assessment, safety education, and crisis preparation. Her approach combined practical security measures with age-appropriate education that built children's confidence rather than creating anxiety. Emma and Lily became Rosa's first junior consultants, demonstrating safety techniques to other children and sharing their experiences with emergency preparedness. Their enthusiasm and competence provided powerful testimonials for Rosa's methods and helped normalize safety education as an essential component of responsible parenting. 6 months after the threatening letter had disrupted their lives, Sophia found herself reflecting on how profoundly their family had changed and grown. The crisis had revealed strengths and resources she hadn't known they possessed, and it had clarified priorities that had previously been assumed rather than consciously chosen. Rosa's presence in their lives was no longer circumstantial or temporary. They had been through genuine danger together and had supported each other through fear, uncertainty, and ultimate triumph. The bonds formed during that period were permanent and unbreakable. "Rosa," Sophia said one evening as they finished cleaning up after dinner, "I want to ask you something important." Rosa looked up from wiping down the counter, attentive to the serious tone in Sophia's voice. "I want to formalize your role in our family, not just as a business partner or security consultant, but as Emma and Lily's guardian, legally, officially, permanently." Rosa stopped what she was doing, clearly shocked by the proposal. "Miss Chen, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that if something ever happened to me, I want you to be the person who raises my daughters. I want them to stay with you in their home, with someone who loves them and understands them and has already proven she would do anything to protect them." The silence that followed was profound. Rosa set down the cleaning cloth and looked at Sophia with tears gathering in her eyes. "You would trust me with that responsibility?" "Rosa, you've already been taking that responsibility for months. This would just make it official and permanent." Rosa was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications of what Sophia was offering. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, I would be honored to be their guardian. They're already my daughters in every way that matters except legally." The conversation that followed involved practical details about legal procedures and financial arrangements, but the emotional core was simple and profound. Rosa would become an official part of their family structure, with recognized rights and responsibilities that reflected the reality of her relationship with Emma and Lily. When they told Emma and Lily about the guardianship arrangement, both girls responded with enthusiasm that suggested they had been hoping for exactly this kind of formalization. "Does this mean Rosa will always be with us?" Lily asked. "Always," Sophia confirmed. "Rosa is part of our family now, officially and forever." Emma nodded with satisfaction. "Good, she belongs with us." The legal process took several months to complete, but the emotional transformation was immediate and complete. Rosa moved from the guest room she had been using during the crisis period into a permanent suite within the penthouse. Her belongings, accumulated over years of temporary living situations, finally had a permanent home. More significantly, the traumatic memories that had shaped Rosa's life for 15 years began to take on new meaning within the context of her role as Emma and Lily's protector and guardian. Maria's disappearance remained a source of pain, but it had also become the foundation for a life dedicated to ensuring other children's safety. "I think Maria would be proud of what we've built," Rosa told Sophia one evening as they watched Emma and Lily work on homework together at the kitchen table. Sophia nodded. "I think she would be grateful that her loss led to so much protection and love for other children." The crisis had tested their family in ways they couldn't have anticipated, but it had also revealed strengths and connections that would sustain them through whatever challenges lay ahead. They had chosen each other not just in good times but in genuine danger, and that choice had created bonds that were stronger than blood or legal documents. Emma and Lily grew up knowing they were protected not just by resources and privilege, but by adults who had proven their willingness to sacrifice everything for their safety and happiness.
The safety education Rosa provided became part of their normal development, building confidence and competence rather than fear. Rosa's consulting business flourished, helping dozens of families create safer environments and more prepared children. Her tragic personal experience had been transformed into professional expertise that prevented other families from experiencing similar losses. Most importantly, the family that had formed through crisis and choice continued to grow stronger and more connected with each passing year. They had learned that true security came not from avoiding all risks, but from facing challenges together with love, wisdom, and unshakable commitment to each other's well-being. The threatening letter that had initially seemed like a devastating attack on their safety had ultimately become the catalyst for creating an even stronger and more united family. Sometimes the greatest dangers reveal the greatest strengths, and sometimes the most frightening challenges lead to the most profound forms of love and protection. In their case, a moment of crisis had become the foundation for a lifetime of security, connection, and joy. 3 years had passed since the crisis that had transformed their lives, and the penthouse overlooking Seattle now bore little resemblance to the sterile showcase it had once been. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator and hallway walls, family photos documented countless moments of joy and connection, and the sounds of laughter and conversation filled spaces that had once echoed with institutional silence. Emma and Lily, now 10 years old, moved through their home with the confidence of children who knew they were deeply loved and carefully protected. Their safety education had become as natural as brushing their teeth, integrated into their daily routines without creating anxiety or fear. They could recite emergency procedures, identify trustworthy adults in various situations, and respond to unexpected circumstances with calm competence that impressed teachers, friends, parents, and even law enforcement professionals who occasionally visited their home. Rosa's transformation from housekeeper to family guardian and professional safety consultant had been complete and remarkable. Her consulting business, Guardian Angel Family Services, had grown to serve over 200 families across the Pacific Northwest. She had written a book about child safety education that had become required reading in many private schools, and she regularly spoke at conferences about trauma-informed approaches to protection and preparedness. But her greatest achievement remained visible every morning when Emma and Lily ran to her for hugs before school, every evening when they shared stories about their day, and every night when they said prayers that included gratitude for the family they had chosen and been chosen by. Sophia had discovered that Rosa's presence in their lives had made her not just a better mother, but a better person. The combination of Rosa's practical wisdom and emotional intelligence with her own analytical skills and resources had created a parenting partnership that brought out the best in both women. Emma and Lily benefited from having two strong female role models who complemented each other's strengths and compensated for each other's limitations. The legal guardianship that had formalized Rosa's role in their family had been just the beginning of deeper integration. Rosa had adopted the Chen family name, becoming Rosa Chen Martinez, a hyphenated identity that honored both her heritage and her chosen family. Emma and Lily referred to her as Mama Rosa, while Sophia remained simply Mama, a distinction that felt natural and appropriate to all four of them. Marcus had initially struggled with Rosa's prominent role in his daughters' lives, but time and observation had convinced him that their expanded family structure served Emma and Lily's best interests. His weekend visits had evolved into collaborative co-parenting that included Rosa as a valued partner rather than an intrusion. He had even begun dating again, introducing his new girlfriend to Rosa before bringing her around the children, seeking Rosa's assessment of how this new relationship might affect Emma and Lily's emotional stability. The success of Rosa's consulting business had also created unexpected opportunities for their family. Several of her clients had become close friends, forming a network of safety-conscious families who supported each other through various challenges. Emma and Lily had developed friendships with children whose parents shared similar values about preparation, protection, and open communication about difficult topics. This community had proven invaluable during a particularly challenging period 6 months earlier, when Emma had been selected for a gifted and talented program that required her to attend a different school from Lily for the first time in their lives. The separation had been difficult for both twins, but the support system Rosa had helped build ensured that both girls had trusted adults and peer connections to help them navigate this transition. Lily's artistic talents had flourished under Rosa's encouragement, leading to enrollment in specialized art classes and participation in community exhibitions that showcased her remarkable ability to capture emotional depth in her paintings. Her artwork often featured families of various configurations, reflecting her understanding that love and protection could take many different forms. Emma's analytical mind had found expression through her participation in Rosa's safety education programs, where she helped teach younger children about emergency preparedness and personal protection. Her ability to explain complex concepts in age-appropriate language had made her a valued junior instructor, and several families had specifically requested that Emma be involved in their children's safety education sessions. Both girls had maintained their academic excellence while developing emotional resilience and practical life skills that set them apart from many of their privileged peers. They understood the value of money without being entitled, appreciated their advantages without taking them for granted, and demonstrated empathy and awareness that reflected their exposure to Rosa's experiences and perspectives. The penthouse itself had been modified to reflect their evolved family structure. Rosa's suite had been expanded and personalized, creating a space that was distinctly hers while remaining integrated with the rest of their home. A family office had been established where Sophia and Rosa could collaborate on both household management and business decisions, acknowledging that their partnership extended far beyond childcare. Most significantly, a memorial garden had been created on the building's rooftop terrace, dedicated to Maria Martinez and other children who had been lost to violence or negligence. Emma and Lily tended this garden regularly, learning about grief, memory, and the importance of honoring those who could not be saved while working to protect those who still could be. The garden had become a place of peace and reflection for the entire family, a space where difficult emotions could be acknowledged and processed without shame or fear. Rosa often brought visiting families to the garden as part of their safety education, helping them understand that preparation and protection arose not from paranoia but from love and loss transformed into positive action. Sophia's business had also evolved in response to her expanded understanding of security and protection. Nexus Innovations had developed specialized software for family safety management, including applications that help parents track their children's locations, communicate during emergencies, and coordinate with schools and law enforcement when necessary. The technology was informed by Rosa's practical experience and designed to enhance rather than replace human judgment and relationship-based safety measures. The company's success with these family-focused products had opened new markets and created partnerships with child advocacy organizations, law enforcement agencies, and educational institutions. Sophia found that her business skills were most meaningful when applied to problems that directly affected families like her own. But perhaps the most significant change was visible in the way Sophia and Rosa navigated decisions about Emma and Lily's future. They had developed a collaborative approach that honored both Sophia's position as biological mother and Rosa's role as guardian and primary caregiver. Major decisions about education, activities, and social development were made jointly, with both women contributing their unique perspectives and expertise. This partnership had been tested and strengthened through various challenges, including Emma's interest in studying abroad during high school, Lily's desire to pursue art more seriously, and both girls' questions about dating and relationships as they approached adolescence. Sophia and Rosa had learned to present a united front while allowing each other space to contribute distinctive wisdom and guidance. The approach had worked so well that several other families had asked them to mentor blended family situations, single-parent households, and adoptive families seeking to integrate children with traumatic backgrounds. Rosa's experience with loss and healing, combined with Sophia's analytical problem-solving skills, had proven valuable for families facing a wide range of challenges. One particularly meaningful consultation had involved a family adopting siblings who had survived human trafficking. Rosa's understanding of trauma responses and safety education had been crucial in helping these children develop trust and confidence in their new environment. Sophia's technology resources had enabled the creation of specialized communication systems that allowed the children to express their needs and fears without verbal pressure. The success of this and similar cases had led to invitations to speak at national conferences about innovative approaches to child protection and family integration. Rosa and Sophia had begun presenting together, their partnership modeling the kind of collaborative protection that they advocated for other families. But despite their professional success and public recognition, their greatest satisfaction came from the quiet moments that demonstrated the strength of their family bonds. Emma's automatic inclusion of Rosa in Mother's Day celebrations, Lily's bedtime request for stories about Rosa's childhood in Mexico, the way both girls seamlessly code-switched between English and Spanish when Rosa's extended family visited from California. These small intimacies reflected a level of integration that went far beyond legal documents or professional arrangements. Emma and Lily had two mothers who loved them unconditionally, and they had learned to navigate that complexity with grace and gratitude rather than confusion or conflict. The anniversary of Maria's disappearance each year brought a period of reflection and renewed commitment for their family. They would spend the day in service to other families, volunteering at shelters, participating in safety education programs, or supporting search efforts for other missing children. Emma and Lily understood that their security and happiness were connected to their responsibility to help protect other vulnerable children. This annual observance had become a family tradition that honored both loss and hope, acknowledging that their joy was built on foundations of others' pain while committing to ensuring that pain led to protection rather than further tragedy. Rosa's extended family had fully embraced Sophia, Emma, and Lily as permanent additions to their network of relationships. Holiday celebrations now included both Rosa's relatives and Sophia's parents, creating multicultural gatherings that reflected the richness of their blended heritage. Emma and Lily were learning Spanish from their tia Carmen and Mandarin from their grandmother Chen, developing language skills that connected them to both sides of their expanded family. These celebrations had also provided opportunities for Rosa to share her story with other family members who might be in positions to protect children or support families in crisis. Several of Rosa's cousins had pursued careers in social work, education, or law enforcement after hearing about her experiences and understanding how individual actions could have broad protective impacts. The ripple effects of their family's evolution continued to expand in ways that surprised and gratified all of them. Emma and Lily's confidence and competence had influenced their classmates, leading to requests from other parents for safety education and family consultation. Their school had implemented new emergency preparedness protocols based on recommendations from Rosa's consulting firm. Most recently, the girls had been invited to participate in a documentary about innovative approaches to child safety, sharing their perspectives on how preparation and protection could coexist with joy and freedom. Their interviews had demonstrated remarkable maturity and insight, reflecting the benefits of honest communication about difficult topics from trusted adults. "We're not scared all the time," Emma had explained to the filmmaker. "We just know what to do if something scary happens. It's like wearing a seatbelt in the car. You don't put it on because you think you're going to crash. You put it on because you want to be safe if something unexpected happens." Lily had added her own perspective with characteristic artistic sensibility. "Mama Rosa taught us that being safe means being smart, not being afraid. And being loved means someone cares enough to teach you how to take care of yourself." These comments had become central to the documentary's message about empowering children rather than frightening them, education rather than anxiety as the foundation for genuine protection. As Emma and Lily approached their 11th birthday, Sophia and Rosa found themselves planning not just a celebration but a milestone recognition of how far their family had traveled from its origins. The girls who had once been protected primarily through privilege and isolation were now confident, capable young people who understood both their advantages and their responsibilities. The birthday celebration would include friends from school, children from Rosa's consulting families and extended relatives from both sides of their blended heritage. It would feature the multicultural foods that had become family traditions, the safety-themed games that Emma and Lily had invented, and the artistic presentations that showcased Lily's creative development. But the most meaningful element would be the presentation of updated emergency contact cards, a tradition that had evolved from Rosa's original safety lesson into an annual affirmation of their expanding network of protection and support. The cards now included dozens of names and numbers, representing the community of care that surrounded Emma and Lily as they grew toward independence. "Every year our family gets bigger," Rosa observed as they prepared the updated cards, "not just because we meet new people, but because we understand more deeply how many people love and protect us." Sophia nodded, reflecting on how her definition of family had expanded from the nuclear unit she had once envisioned to the complex network of relationships that now sustained and enriched their lives. "Emma and Lily will grow up knowing that family isn't just about blood or legal documents," she said. "It's about people who choose to love and protect each other, regardless of how they're connected." This understanding had become the foundation of their family philosophy, influencing everything from daily interactions to major life decisions. It had also shaped their approach to community involvement, professional development and relationship building in ways that continued to create positive impacts for other families. As they looked toward the future, Sophia and Rosa saw not just the completion of a successful family integration but the beginning of a new phase of growth and contribution. Emma and Lily were developing their own interests and capabilities, but they were doing so from a foundation of security, confidence and social awareness that would serve them throughout their lives. Rosa's consulting business was expanding into training programs for schools, law enforcement agencies, and community organizations, multiplying the impact of her hard-won expertise. Sophia's technology company was developing new products that could help families around the world improve their safety and communication capabilities. Most importantly, their family model was inspiring other non-traditional households to pursue legal recognition, professional collaboration, and community building that strengthened rather than threatened traditional family structures. The penthouse that had once been a beautiful but cold showcase for individual success had become a warm, vibrant home that demonstrated the power of chosen family, collaborative parenting, and love that transcended conventional boundaries. It was a place where loss had been transformed into protection, where trauma had become wisdom, and where two little girls were growing up surrounded by more love and security than any amount of money or privilege could have provided alone. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.